Love goes where it ought to go, but sometimes, the players behind the love console could face lots of influence from these coaches. The story of a happily married Deborah and her poor husband, Hans. Hans was born to poor parents in the city of Technica, a few meters away from Madida, where Deborah, who comes from a generally sustainable family. They were not regarded as the part of the echelons of high society in Madida. As a result of that, much was expected from Deborah in terms of her choice of a partner, but it turned out that her choice wasn't the best. Hans begins to feel the maltreatment for being poor by his mother-in-law. Undoubtedly, Hans was dumbfounded but kept his composure so as not to disrespect anyone. When they set off and got out of the compound, one of the extended family members, Jonathan, who was very successful and single, was riding in the latest luxurious car. Upon reaching there, he stopped his car and quickly, Gladys rushed into the front seat. But Mr. Adams told Jonathan they'd have to decline his good offer, something that obviously didn't sit well with Mrs. Gladys Adams. For more intriguing love stories, subscribe to Love Blanche for more videos. Mrs. Adams was obviously not enthused with the decision by her husband to allow them go and board a public transport instead of riding in a luxurious car. Jonathan bade them farewell and kissed the backhand of Deborah, which obviously brought some good smiles on the face of Mrs. Adams. "I am highly disappointed in you, Frank. How could you let this golden opportunity to taste luxury pass us? You are well aware we can't afford to buy a luxurious car because of our family's status, and obviously this thing of an in-law can't provide common 3 square meals for our daughter. How much more buying a luxurious car? You can just spoil my mood," she muttered and whimpered off, angrily separating herself from the rest of the family. "I'm sorry, Mummy, for all the inconvenience. Please be rest assured that I am working hard and soon everything will be all right." She immediately slapped Hans for making that statement. "You have no right to assure me of anything concerning quality of life and riches. You only talk to me when you have made it in life." The electronic vehicle service with the inscription OB Transportation pops up and the family packs their stuff into the vehicle. Hans reaches out for his gift for his great-grandfather-in-law, but there is a loud yell and distaste from his mother-in-law. Frank looks at his wife in disbelief and tells his son-in-law to pack the things into the boot of the car, and he does exactly so. Hans remains quiet in the car till they get to the venue for the reunion. Upon reaching the venue for the reunion, he sees the fleet of expensive cars parked at the parking lot amidst the heavy sound of music being played in the background. Mrs. Adams gets out of the car and sighs a huge breath of relief and staring scornfully at Hans. "Are you sure you belong to this gathering? If I were you, I would return and give an excuse that I wasn't feeling well. That was why I couldn't honor the invitation. After all, you are a nobody in this family and nobody will ever respect you because you are just a poor rat who stole the heart of my daughter with black magic and witchcraft," he shouted at Hans. Hans replies, "Why do you treat me with so much disdain because I am broke? Remember, my economic situation won't last forever. It will surely change one day." She gets angry at him, spits at him, and leaves in the full glare of her daughter and husband. Frank, who consoles him and encourages him, giving him a tissue to wipe the spit from his face. He takes it, wipes it, and thanks him for his kind gesture. Upon entering the gathering, he sees some of the kids playing around, and they all ran away from him as he tries to get closer to them. He looks at himself and wonders what's exactly wrong with him since the children ran away from him. He quickly runs to his wife and asks her what's wrong with him. She seems at sea with whatever her husband is talking about. She then takes him to a cool corner and sits with him. "Hans, my dear husband, I know you are trying your best, and I appreciate your efforts to make life comfortable for me, but please know that in my family, it is hard to gain recognition if you're not wealthy. So please avoid possible situations that would make you feel less important. Simple, you can stay here and not go inside." He shakes his head in dismay and keeps a little smile to save himself from the heartache and shock of his wife's comments. Nathan, another family member, pops up and walks up to them while they are having a chat. He widely opens his arms and gives Debbie a warm hug and a peg in front of Hans. Hans looks on in pain but doesn't talk. Nathan, after the hug, looks at Hans and removes gum from his mouth and hands it over to Hans to go and throw it away for him. "I'm sorry, I can't do that. I'm sure you can find another suitable person to do that for you. Thanks," and he walks away. As he moves, Nathan whistles to draw the attention of Philip, another handsome guy who supplies raw materials to Bide Corp. He is a very handsome young man, with many impressive qualities to woo any lady. So, whom do we have here? If it is not Hans the loser who married from our beautiful family, then I guess my guess is as good as your bank account. Let me ask you, don't you feel ashamed being riches and you smell of poverty? Hans smiles and tries to maintain his composure in order not to get angry. All this while, his wife, Debbie, is just making faces by laughing at those humiliating jokes against her husband, but she does not comment. She only enjoys the pampering and the show of love from her family members, but is adamant to her husband's feelings. Hans moves from there to the barbecue spot where they are busily grilling meat of all kinds. He is in the queue to take some of the meat, but Jonathan comes and pushes him out of the queue and he falls down in the grass. No one helps him up. The rest of the family members laugh at him scornfully, but he puts himself together and rejoins the queue again without putting up a fight or even talking. His father-in-law sees the sight from far and is unhappy about the development, but seems powerless in the situation, so he keeps mute and shakes his head. As Hans gradually progresses in the queue to get to his turn to have a taste of the meat, his mother-in-law comes to drag him from the queue. Hans, I see you are a nuisance here, and the best thing you can do now after enjoying from people's sweat is to go clean the toilet because some of the kids just messed up the place, she tells Hans. She then goes for the mop and the bucket and some detergents and directs him to go scrub and mop the washrooms. Hans stares at him in full pain and shakes his head. It seems she felt insulted by the fact that he had shaken his head. You are angry? Really? Don't let me cause a scene. You're just a useless nothing and God-forsaken nobody who has managed to bewitch my daughter, else a non-entity like you shouldn't be entertained in the family. She hands over the items to him and she leaves. When she leaves, he takes the items and heads for the washroom to do the cleaning. When he gets there, he sees one of the little children who disrespected him in pain. He's crying, but it seems nobody is around to attend to him. Upon seeing the scene, he puts the items down and goes to help the child as he gets closer to the child. Watch out for episode 3. Subscribe for more videos and hit the notification button.